Hello, it's Sunday, March the 16th in the year 2025. I hope that this message finds you living holy for God and enjoying His protection wherever you may be. Welcome to Darkness is Falling video number 380 in this series exposing the Jesuit Vatican shadow empire as the true cause of all revolutions, genocide, war, and deception for the last 500 years, and the one and only candidate for the fourth iron Roman beast system described trampling and crushing the nations in the prophetic books of Daniel and Revelation. People, the Romans are truly in our midst and causing havoc in our own backyard. Having infiltrated North America more than 200 years ago, they are now subverting peaceful American and Canadian society from within in order to bring it down. Divide and conquer is the game. See how slow and meticulous the Jesuit-controlled UN world government has been in sowing the seeds of destruction with the goal of undermining peaceful societies even while they were building them. Americans are now pitted against Canadians and are becoming enemies because of Donald Trump's poisonous and false accusations. Sadly, most people are falling for the lies. It's unbelievable to watch online how dumbed down and gullible people really are on both sides of the fence. It just goes to show you, as I always say, if you don't know your enemy and his strategies, then you have no idea what he is doing and you are doomed. Rome is causing havoc with Donald Trump's tariff war on the nations. We shouldn't be surprised. Jesus said that neighbors would turn on each other in Luke chapter 21, verse 16, saying this, "And you shall be betrayed both by parents and brethren and kinsfolk and friends, and some of you shall they cause to be put to death." And they have been doing that and will continue to do that to the peoples of all the nations. And the people don't even see that this is what is being done to them. So, how are they going to do this? Well, with viruses and weather warfare and now tariffs, and of course, the perennial with lies. Now, Isaiah chapter 3, verse 5 states prophetically, "And the people shall be oppressed, every one by another, and every one by his neighbor. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient, and the base against the honorable." Do not be shocked, people, if Canadians and Americans end up killing each other at some point. This is not an impossibility. The beast is using extreme patriotism and nationalism to blind the people and enrage them against the wrong enemy. A violent scenario is not entirely out of the question. This remains to be seen. The beast must divide peaceful people, and after some killing, then unite them under his rulership with some scam peace deal. This is how it has always been. Peace deal after peace deal in history, and then the deals are broken. Do not be shocked at anything that happens going forward. Remember that Vladimir Putin provoked the Russia Ukraine war over nothing legitimate. It was and is a war for the sake of war, to provoke chaos and division, and to bring change in Rome's favor. The Jesuits are gradually bringing their 10 world assistancies into total control and unity. Don't look at countries, don't look at borders. I talked about this in a few previous videos. Look at the Jesuit assistancies. You don't know what they are? Just go to the Jesuit website and put in assistancies into the search box. And with a little bit of effort, it will bring you to a map of the 10 world assistancies. That is what the Jesuits see, and that is what they are working on bringing into total control and unity under the beast. So, this disruption, these escalations of aggression and, what would you call it, division, are all planned. And it's targeted at the people who do not know what is going on. The leaders are all in this together. And I've said this many, many times. They're all actors playing out a role, reading a script. They're working together for one ultimate goal, and that is world unity under one world ruler. And we are inching our way towards that day by day. Now, here's a few things from the news. Here's the first point. We know that Donald Trump is the Joker, or the Joker-S. She's an agent of chaos. She's been told to burn the system down. And that's what she is doing, causing chaos, division, anger, hatred, revolt, whatever you want to call it. The Jesuits are flushing out their enemies, the ones who are still awake. Now, in this first section, I've just copied a few titles of articles from CNN, and I'll just read them quickly. Now, this is just from the last 3 or 4 days. The CNN article posted March the 11th, titled, "Trump Set Off a Stock Market Plunge That Hammered U.S. Retirement Accounts." Excuse me. They're going to totally destroy, they're going to siphon off all the retirement accounts, all the 401ks, all the bank accounts. They're doing it gradually, bit by bit, so that people don't take notice of it. So if you have a retirement account, you might not have one soon. Another CNN article posted March 11th, 2025, titled, "The Chilling Effect of Trump's War Against the Legal Establishment." Is there a war again? No. There appears to be a war. They are all working on this together. Another CNN article posted March 12, 2025, titled, "Trump Takes an Axe to More Than a Dozen Pollution Rules in Rapid-Fire Deregulation." Yes, Donna is upending the table, turning everything upside down, destroying, removing everything that was established before. And she can do this with her executive missiles. Her executive order missiles. She can just explode and destroy whatever she wants. Another one. CNN article posted March 12, 2025, titled, "Trump Imposes Sweeping 25% Steel and Aluminium Tariffs. Canada and Europe Swiftly Retaliate." There you go, the retaliation. It's the old retaliation game. They're all in this together, people. And they've been told to do it, and they are cooperating. Another CNN article posted March 11, 2025, the chilling effect of Trump's war against the legal establishment. There it is again, against the legal establishment. Do all these people know what's going on? No, just the ones at the top. But they are cooperating to bring the system down, to bring in the change that puts everything in Rome's favor. More and more power is siding over towards the beast and away from the people. Can anybody stop this? No. So if you're a humanist and you're listening to this and you think that you can stop this, all the best. Things are so far gone, nothing will stop the juggernaut that is now coming towards us, or that we are actually in. Another article, a CNN article posted March 15th, 2025. Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to target migrants accused of affiliation with a Venezuelan gang. You see? Donna can do whatever she wants. She can invoke acts that are 200 years old. She can do whatever she wants. She's been given the white card to bring about the change that the Jesuits want quickly. Finally, no, not finally, another article posted March 15th, also 2025. Trump says decisive military action against the Houthis in Yemen is underway. There you go. Where is the UN and their troops? Where is the UN? How come Donna is waging war with impunity in another sovereign country, Yemen? Can you see the discrepancy? Where is the United Nations World Government dictating affairs? They are just silent and absent, while Donald Trump gives the impression that she controls the world and that she can do anything with impunity when she can't, and she is not controlling anything. The United Nations is being put on the back burner to give the appearance, to further deceive the people that America calls the shots when it does not. America is told what to do. And the Jesuits hide behind all these nations and organizations. Now, in point number 2, CNN article posted March 11th, 2025, titled Poland Wants 100,000 Volunteers to Take Part in Military Training in 2027. That's 2 years from now. What's going on here? I just did a quick investigation, and from an online source in 2024, global defense spending reflected intensifying security challenges and reached US dollar $2.46 trillion, up from US $2.24 trillion the previous year. Growth also escalated, with the 7.4% real terms uplift outpacing increases of 6.5% in 2023 and 3.5% in 2022, driven by the war in Ukraine and rising geopolitical tensions, with increases seen in all 5 geographical regions for the first time since 2009. What's going on here, people? Big increase in military spending. What are they doing? What are the nations being told to do? Why are they escalating militaries and defense spending? VisualCapitalist.com states that in 2024, the U.S. spent nearly $1 trillion $1 trillion US dollars on its defense budget, equal to 3.4% of GDP. In contrast, NATO members in Europe and Canada spent an average of 2% of GDP on defense, while NATO's defense budgets have declined since the Cold War. Declined. Really? Russia's military spending has surged by 227% since 2000, and China's has skyrocketed by 566%. What is going on here, people? What is with all this this upsurge in military spending? Well, there's a reason for it. Since 2009, you see, it's increasing. Now, the 15 largest national defense budgets for 2024 combined total $2 trillion. Imagine the other 180 countries' combined defense budgets. Possibly another $500 billion or more. Why is this huge expenditure happening when there is no enemy? And there isn't. Look around the world. There is no enemy. There is just a perceived enemy. We are living in a united world with the United Nations World Government. Where is the enemy? What are all these armies and weapons for? Well, firstly, they foster the illusion of sovereign nations as sovereign military powers, thus hiding the beast central UN government. And secondly, the Jesuits are preparing the armies of the nations for the Battle of Armageddon, which I have told you about in previous messages. Watch as Defense Force recruiting continues to escalate across all the nations as we move forward. Today, there are an estimated 28 million armed forces personnel worldwide. 28 million. Right now, national governments are downsizing. The governments are downsizing, but national militaries are upsizing every year and doing it quietly. This is a clear indicator of Roman world unity of purpose by all national puppet governors. You have to look at these trends, people, but you have to be constantly searching and looking for these things. What's going up, what's going down, what's moving forward, what's going backwards, because this indicates, it doesn't tell us directly, but it indicates what is changing and possibly why it's changing. Now, point number 3 in this small news update. An article from Blockworks posted July 13, 2023 states, "New futuristic blockchain cities are just castles in the air." Remember, this was posted 2 years ago. The article states the majority of these city projects are using blockchain cryptocurrencies as mere buzzwords rather than as real solutions. Is this claim true? With a bit of checking, we find crypto hub cities popping up all over the world. Berlin, Singapore, Dubai, Tokyo, Sydney, San Francisco, Miami, New York, and Hong Kong have positioned themselves to be digital asset hubs. And of course, every central bank in every country is and has a cryptocurrency, a central bank digital currency. That is not something future, people. That is now. That's already in existence. They are just not telling us the whole truth. Bitcoin smart cities are being built. There's one being built on Roatan Island in the Honduras, and it has the name of Prospero. And there's another city called Bitcoin City in La Union in El Salvador, which is going to cost $17 billion to build. do these news items tell us? For those who have eyes to see, they point to the fulfillment of Bible prophecy of a one-world beast kingdom, a unity of the nations. Every piece in the puzzle is coming together slowly but surely. Donna Trump in all her agitations. And then we've got the Bitcoin, Beastcoin thing it's coming in quickly, actually. It's coming in faster than ever. Crypto hubs around the world, cryptocurrency hubs, and then we've got the escalation of militaries. If you're an observer of the times, please watch these things going forward because they are red flags. They are signs of the times. Now, in this video, I want to look at airplanes and air travel. Now, you're probably wondering why? What does this have to do with Bible prophecy and the Jesuit Roman World Government? My answer is a lot. Far more than you can imagine. The state of air travel at any time is like a canary in a coal mine. The health of air travel actually dictates the movement of millions of people and millions of dollars worth of goods every hour of every day worldwide. World trade, world commerce, the world economy is dependent on this air travel, airplane industry. It is airplanes that connect people with the world quickly. Now, maybe you have never flown anywhere, or maybe you have, but this subject holds no interest for you. Let me tell you, it should. And I'm going to spend some time telling you why. Airplanes change the world. And along with a few other inventions like the telephone, the internal combustion engine, and electricity, created fast-moving modern society or civilization. Modern jet aircraft are possibly the greatest invention of man. The world we see today would not be what it is without fast, safe jet aircraft travel. These aircraft are truly a modern marvel. I have traveled on a lot of them, and I never ceased to be amazed when flying. In 2023, 2 years ago, 1,138 airlines operated a fleet of 29,039 commercial aircraft in service through a route network of several million kilometers. There are 4,072 airports with scheduled commercial flights in the world. In 2023, 67,300 routes were served globally. Of these, around 21,000 are unique city pairs. The truth is, when the airplanes stop flying, civilization as we know it immediately regresses. It goes backwards. The recent case in point demonstrating this for the first time happened between April 2020 and April 2022. The world essentially stopped as people were locked down over a fake virus. Yes, a few planes were flying here and there, but there were strict limitations. People needed to be masked, tested, and injected to get on a flight, and the ticket prices were extortionate. Not many people were flying during this lockdown period. Many planes were kept in operation but flew virtually empty. Everything went backwards, and in many ways it still is. Now, how do I know this? Well, my brother funded a Christian woman that we met online way back in 2020, funded this woman to help her get out of lockdown New Zealand and get back to South Africa. Now, a normal price for that ticket would have been somewhere around $1,200, $1,300, maybe $1,400 max. One way ticket. That ticket cost $5,000. That is what people were paying towards the end of 2020 to be able to fly. And there weren't many flights. That woman had to wait a week to get a flight out of Auckland to Johannesburg. That went on for quite some time. Now, it wasn't until after May 2023, remember when the pandemic was officially called off, that unvaccinated people weren't able to fly again, and airlines were able to resume normal services again without masking, testing, and QR codes required from passengers. Do you remember that? I do. People equate air travel with freedom. It's as simple as that. When planes stop flying or access to flying is restricted or prohibited, people feel they have lost their freedom. That's how important air travel is. Now, this is really important to understand. People believe that air travel is a right that is owed to them somehow. They believe that they have the right to travel anywhere they want, when they want, and they get very, very angry when this perceived right is refused or thwarted. Now, the fake pandemic in 2019 stripped people of their perceived right to fly by April of 2020. In desperation to get on an airplane, people did anything they were told. When they couldn't fly, they found themselves trapped in foreign countries, living hand to mouth and desperate for as long as 2 years. At the first opportunity, these people masked, tested, and injected to get on an airplane and get back to where they felt they belonged. Nothing has changed today as far as attitude to flying goes. People will do almost anything to get on an airplane and go where they want to go. Very few people saw through the virus hoax and refused to fly. Now, what people don't realize is that air travel is not a right. They just think it is. In actuality, we don't have any rights. Not under Roman international law, we do not have any rights. People think they have rights. They don't. Air travel was developed by the Jesuits so that it could become a device of convenience by which to socially engineer people and manipulate their movements and thus their lives. Air travel was developed as a weapon to control and trap and mark people. We saw this happen to hundreds of millions, if not billions of people during the pandemic. Now, how do we know this? Well, many have written and spoken about this online over the last couple of years, and I've read those stories. Now, how did the Jesuits know to do this? They have 100-year plans. That's why. They developed air travel to develop it as a weapon to control and trap and mark people. Now, if you don't believe that, that's your prerogative. But that is the truth. And it worked because between 2020 and 2023, they did control and trap and mark possibly billions of people with airplanes and their airport control centers. Prove me wrong. I know that what I'm saying is 100% correct. I have been following this closely for years and years now. Now, there are three big problems right now which are leading to a convergence causing either major air disasters or possibly a complete shutdown of air travel at some point. Number one, the first is the COVID shot requirements for all commercial airline pilots worldwide in 2020. And we're going to look at that first. Number two, aircraft safety, and in particular the issues with Boeing. Number three, what is happening with air traffic control, or ATC, and air traffic control system obsolescence caused by FAA regulatory failure. So these 3 points, the COVID shots, influence on pilots, aircraft safety, and finally, air traffic control problems. Big problems. Now, I have talked about this eventuality concerning airplanes in a number of previous videos. It is a big topic, and I have only talked about it in passing while keeping my eye on it. I have even said a number of times to keep your eye on air travel because it will be an indicator of the collapse of the present system, or if not the collapse, the final flip, the final inversion of the present system. I've even warned people to not fly. And I'm sure people have totally ignored the warnings because I have come across people who follow this channel, who listen to the messages, who were flying not long after I made that warning. Now, people are free to do whatever they want, but I don't issue warnings because it's just a fun thing to do or to cause people to live in fear. Warnings are made because there is a problem. There is danger. Now, the collapse is happening as I speak. It's been happening for a long time, but it's accelerating even as I speak. The cracks are beginning to show, and it's all by design, as I have demonstrated in hundreds of videos. The system must flip completely and trap people and mark people. It's all by design. Don't be fooled by the mainstream media stories that airlines have returned to pre-COVID levels and everything is now hunky-dory as they try to keep up with increasing post-COVID demand from the public. Nothing could be further from the truth. The key factor here is that all airlines worldwide are bankrupt. Yes, they are. If you believe what the mainstream media tells you, well, you're just foolish. Why would you do that? They're going to tell you anything they want you to know. All the airlines are bankrupt. The whole world is bankrupt, so why wouldn't the airlines be bankrupt? Don't be fooled by the claims they are making of a return to profitability, as it is just a ruse. Now, many airlines were barely turning a profit when the fake pandemic grounded them in 2020. More than 50 airlines disappeared during the fake pandemic. Most of the others are just hanging on, and many of the aircraft are now aging and need to be replaced. There is a perfect storm coming at the whole air transport industry. Just keep your eye on it. The Jesuits own all the airlines and don't need to make a profit. That's just a surface illusion thing to keep up appearances of normality. And like I said, they just keep them running, keep the airlines running to keep the world looking normal. It's a matrix illusion. Nothing keeps the illusion of freedom and normality alive like a sky full of airplanes, right? If you live around a reasonably large metropolitan area, you can see airplanes going across all the time, day and night. It gives you this sense, it gives everybody a sense of normality because the airplanes are flying. We have gotten used to that our whole lives, people. And that's exactly what the Jesuits want us to think and to feel. The airlines are running today simply to keep people in a state of deception over the freedom they believe they have. Airplanes are just another mind control weapon. Was it always this way? No. But it has been that way for at least the last 30 years. Regularly available, cheap air travel starting in the 70s was used to train people for decades into the expectation that it would always be there for them and it would just keep getting better and better and cheaper and better and cheaper. Whenever they wanted to, people could just pick up and fly away to exotic destinations and feel like free agents while they were doing it. Buying air tickets makes a person feel like they are in control of their lives and their choices. Today, people are addicted to flying. I used to be. Yes, I am a self-confessed flying junkie, but I have not flown since 2020, and I will never fly again. So people today are addicted to flying, moving when they want, how they want. They expect to just go whenever they want. The Jesuits have these flight junkies in their billions right where they want them. They all got tested and injected so they could fly. And I heard hundreds of people make that confession. Hundreds. They sold their souls for airplane tickets. Mind you, it's a step up from a McDonald's Happy Meal or some Krispy Kreme donuts or free beer or free entrance to a brothel. But what's the difference? They sold their souls to fill their bellies, their desires. And yes, there was a place in the USA, I think in New York State, that was giving free entrance to a brothel in all its pleasures if a person got injected and brought their vaccination certificate to the brothel. The stories I heard of what people were being offered to inject is unbelievable. Rolex watches in Hong Kong. Yes, Rolex watches. Real ones? I don't know. Could be imitation. Anyways, the devil always rips you off, right? Always. It's never a good deal with Satan. It may seem like it, but definitely you'll get the bad end of the bargain. So people expect to be able to buy air tickets and go whenever they want, wherever they want, and if they can't, they get angry. I've seen it. Now remember 2020 when all the airlines virtually stopped flying? Where did all those planes go? Many airliners were stored at airports in the United States such as Pittsburgh, Tulsa, Atlanta, Sky Harbor in Phoenix, Mobile, San Antonio, and Birmingham in Alabama. In some locales, runways and taxiways have been converted to parking areas. In Europe, airliners were parked at airports in Frankfurt, Copenhagen, Paris, Vienna, and London, among other places. Other airports around the world at which aircraft were parked included Seoul, Hong Kong, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, and Delhi. Now, long-term storage at U.S. boneyards, they're called boneyards, were Pinal Air Park in Arizona, Southern California Logistics in Victorville, Roswell International in New Mexico, Mojave Airport in California, and Blytheville, Arkansas International Airport. Long-term storage in Europe and worldwide of airplanes was at Teruel Airport in Spain, Tarbes-Lourdes-Pyrenees Airport in France, Châteauroux Airport in France, Cotswold Airport in the UK, St. Athan Airfield in Wales, Ireland West Airport in Knock, Twente Airport in the Netherlands, and Alice Springs Airport in Australia. That's where a lot of airplanes were stored for quite a long time. Now here's a 10 minute 16 video posted by the CNBC YouTube channel in April 2020 that will remind you about how it was worldwide 5 months into this fake pandemic. I personally believe that no one can grasp the enormity of what was thrust upon the world at that time. The Jesuit Superior General and his 10 assistants planned that fake virus and vaccine psyop. The control over all airlines and all government agencies worldwide brought the world to a standstill. It had never happened before in history. Now, I keep saying that because people don't seem to register the gravity, the seriousness of the 5 years just passed. A lot went on, far more than all of us can imagine. Now think of the planning and cooperation needed in all 195 UN countries to achieve this Herculean feat of flying and parking planes all over the world. Think about it. It was a massive undertaking. Now, who has the power to do this? Now, please reflect on the power that Satan, prince of this world, has while you watch this video. Yes, Satan and his Roman iron fourth beast kingdom hierarchy of control almost totally shut down the world for about 3 years. Basically, the clock stopped on everything. Now, please watch the video and I'll see you afterwards.
The coronavirus has devastated the airline industry. U.S. air travel has dropped 95% compared to last year, and the number of flights scheduled globally is down by 63%. The insides of airports are empty, but outside is another story. While some airlines have started transporting cargo on passenger planes, more than 2/3 of the world's commercial aircraft are grounded.
It's somewhere between 14 and 15,000 aircraft that are parked, or almost 60% of the fleet.
Never before in history have airlines had to ground so many planes so quickly.
Our customers have come to us and said, look, we're parking literally hundreds of aircraft per day. And logistically, it's very, very complex. This is a particular difficult time. And we've created a particular app that literally allows them to virtually park the aircraft.
With no demand for flights, Delta and United reported their first quarterly losses in more than 5 years. American Airlines told CNBC its revenue is down 90% from a year ago. Parking hundreds of aircraft is also adding to their losses. These planes can't just sit idle. They need routine maintenance and a place to be stored. And when you suddenly have thousands of planes with nowhere to go, it becomes a logistical nightmare. Before the coronavirus hit, airplanes were where they were meant to be, in the air. At certain times of the year, there could be as many as 20,000 planes in flight at the same time around the world. At the end of 2019, the global air fleet was nearly 24,000, and now more than 16,000 of those massive machines need a place to park.
And that number can continue to go up as airlines continue to cut their networks.
Aircraft storage facilities have been around for decades, but never in history has the aviation industry had to park so many planes at once. Airlines are having to get creative about finding space for planes. A recent flyover of a storage facility in Victorville, California, shows planes fit together like puzzle pieces on unused runways. Victorville is well known as one of the world's biggest airplane boneyards, a storage location for out-of-service or old planes. It was already storing Southwest's fleet of Boeing 737 MAX 8s, but it's now storing hundreds of other aircraft due to the lack of demand in air travel. Victorville, along with boneyards in Roswell, New Mexico and Tucson, Arizona, are currently the top 3 locations for parked aircraft. They've collectively stored 800 planes so far.
Routine parking happens from time to time with very, very small volumes of aircraft, but this is completely unprecedented.
It's so widespread that aircraft are being parked at airports all over. Major airports now have, many parked aircraft on the ground, and they're going to be there for a while.
As you can see here, American Airlines is using Tulsa International Airport as a parking lot for many of its jets. There's currently over 50 grounded airplanes parked here.
Nothing this big has ever landed in the Alice. More than a dozen planes are now sitting in a storage facility at the Outback Airport.
Aircraft range in size. For scale, a standard football field is 160 feet wide. A narrow-body jet like Boeing 737 has a wingspan of 117 feet, but wide-body airliners can be twice that. The world's largest plane, Airbus's A380, has a wingspan of 261 feet. Even aircraft manufacturer Airbus is being asked to help.
Our customers have come to us and said, look, we're parking literally hundreds of aircraft per day, and we have a huge amount of maintenance work to do with that. And we've created a particular app And that's an app that helps our customers to work out exactly how much maintenance is needed and even logistically where the aircraft are. And that enables them to very quickly optimize how to park the aircraft, where to park them, and also to prepare them when they come out of service when this is through.
Airbus, along with Boeing, dominate the commercial aircraft industry, and together make up 91% of the market share. Airbus has over 11,000 planes in operation. Skywise is a digital platform the manufacturer offers its customers to keep up the health of an aircraft. It collects data from systems and sensors to help predict maintenance, as well as help with logistics of daily operations. Airbus has added a new feature to help airlines find parking. Parking an airplane isn't as easy as just finding a spot. Factors like how long the plane will be out of service and what type of maintenance needs to be done play a role in finding a location.
A decision is made as to whether it's basically storage or whether it's actual parking. Now, parking is typically relatively short term. It's a bit like putting something in the fridge compared to longer term storage, which would be where you put it in the freezer. So certain pieces of maintenance must be done before you can park up an aircraft, even if it's just for a couple of days.
These aircraft cost hundreds of millions of dollars, and maintaining them is not cheap. Even when parked, they need to run the engines, cycle fluids, and move the tires among many other checklist items. This is why some airlines are flying with just a few passengers aboard, just to keep them running. When airlines know the plane is going to sit for months at a time, they're sent to the desert, because the dry climate helps prevent corrosion.
If it sits on the ground for 1 or 2 months and it hasn't been operated that whole time, it requires a lot more maintenance to bring it back into service than, let's say, if it's been started up every 10 days or so. I was just speaking with the head of maintenance for a significant U.S. airline, and what this person told me is that right now they have need for X number of aircraft, but they're actually keeping 2X, in other words, twice as many active, and they're rotating them, in and out. So that way, for those other aircraft, you won't have to worry about the more extensive maintenance to bring them back into service.
At the moment, we have about 80% of the fleet in the parking mode.
Etihad Airways, for example, returned over 100 planes to its main base in Abu Dhabi, where it sealed up engines and sensors to prevent things like sand from getting into critical areas.
They're a very intricate, complex piece of machinery. It's not like parking a car.
The outlook for coronavirus is still unclear. Boeing told its shareholders that air travel could take 2 to 3 years to return to normal. Airlines have had to consolidate fleets to cut back on costs.
International travel has been hurt the most, and with good reason, and it's very difficult now to travel between countries. This means that long-haul aircraft, which are generally what we call twin aisles or wide bodies, are going to suffer more than single aisles like the 737 and A320. The A380, the big double-decker that Airbus launched, a little bit over a decade ago, every one of those is on the ground. 100% of the A380s are parked today. The larger it is and the older it is, the more it suffers. So when you down gauge, you're going to go to the smallest aircraft, the most economical aircraft.
Airlines before coronavirus were doing great. They had the highest employment levels in the United States, at least in 17 years. They were hiring like crazy, pilots, flight attendants, expecting this big rush in travel to continue. And we've seen it over the last decade. They had a decade of profitability, and now they're going to be posting the first losses in years.
Airlines have seen incredible losses, and analysts don't expect that to stop anytime soon. Like many businesses, large and small, they are in survival mode and looking for ways to conserve cash. Lack of demand could lead to canceling or deferring future orders from manufacturers. Airbus and Boeing have already cut back on production, and both companies are planning to slash jobs. As for the thousands of aircraft parked around the world, retirement could come much earlier than expected.
One thing to understand is that before this crisis hit, airlines couldn't get these planes fast enough. One of their biggest complaints was that aircraft were delayed, so the market for aircraft was very high. Airbus and Boeing, which dominate aircraft production, have been sold out of some of their best sellers through pretty much the middle of the decade. So it was even hard to get a slot. We're going to see that kind of reverse, and you'll see some cancellations, you'll see deferrals. you'll see that market sort of loosen up. But some airlines, because fuel is such a big cost, they do want the more fuel efficient aircraft going forward. But the timing of when they get those planes, that's going to change. It'll all depend on when demand comes back.
6,000 of these are 15 years or older. 4,000 of these are, 20 years or more. And so they're already approaching retirement age. And we're in a situation now where we have thousands of excess aircraft. So if you're an airline and you're deciding what aircraft you're going to keep around, you don't want to spend millions of dollars on maintenance to keep your older aircraft around for them to fly in the next year. So the impact here is dramatic.
There is no timeline for when the world will return back to normal. So for now, much of these aircraft will sit waiting for the return to normalcy like the rest of us.
Did you catch the numbers? U.S. air travel dropped 95% by April 2020. Global scheduled flights dropped by 63%, and 2/3 of the world's commercial aircraft were grounded, or 60% plus of the fleet. It was a one-off event in history, and it was done quickly. American airline revenues were down 90%. Now, you can apply this figure across the board to all the airlines. Just imagine the financial losses incurred over 3 years. But my biggest point here is, how did they organize this so quickly if the virus came out of nowhere and nobody knew it was going to happen? See, people can't answer these questions. Because, of course, the virus was all planned, the whole thing was all planned, everything was planned in advance. That's why they could do this all quickly without massive chaos and confusion. The parking of airplanes was a massive military event. It went like clockwork. It was a military operation to park all those planes. Now, did you hear the woman in the video say that all these aircraft are parked due to lack of demand? That is totally untrue. The demand never dropped, never stopped. People wanted to fly in April 2020. Airlines were ordered to mothball their planes, and people weren't permitted to fly by authorities. That's the truth, not lack of demand. Now, I know about this time period because I caught an airplane in March 2020 because I saw the writing on the wall, and I flew out to stay with my brother in Western Canada. I virtually caught the last plane out of town. And this was around March 20th, I believe. So just after I caught that flight, they shut down all the domestic flights in Canada. I understand this time period very well. I just got out of town. So the spiel about airline profitability is also a story based on something called creative accounting. Adding up numbers in two columns of debit and credit, it becomes very clear that airlines always operate at a loss. 3 years of loss equals bankruptcy. But notice how the governments bailed out the major airlines just like they did the banks. And notice how most of those airlines are still going. How? How? After virtually nearly 3 years being shut down. So that's how they keep everything floating along, looking normal, people. They just pump money into these companies, into these airlines. The Jesuits don't care about losing money with banks or airplanes or businesses, just as they don't care about losing money over every second or third Hollywood movie ever made. They don't care. Remember that for the Jesuits, the end justifies the means. That's all that matters to the Jesuits. It's not about money. They have it all. They own it all. The money is theirs. They print it in their central banks, Roman central banks in every country every day. Money is not the object. The end, achieving their end goal, is all that matters, and they'll do anything to get there. Rome owns it all, so expenditure means nothing to them. The goal is one world government, one religion, and one ruler to rule them all. Never lose sight of this satanic goal. This is what the Bible tells us the end goal for Satan is. One world satanic empire. And airplanes are a means to that end. I hope you're understanding what I'm trying to say here. The goal is control of people at any price. It's not about profit when you already own it all. It's about control and slavery, or the enslavement of every living soul. That's what it's always been about and always will be until they achieve their final objective. Only then, when they have total control, total slavery, every soul in their hand, only then is full power assumed. The Jesuits have thrown away trillions of dollars in order to take full control of mankind. Money is no object to them. Airplanes and airlines are a weapon, even as banks and movies are. They're all weapons. Everything's been weaponized. I talked about this in a video 4 years ago, that everything had been weaponized by Rome. And somehow people just can't get their heads around that. But it's true. So, the Jesuits will make the little man pay for all these losses in the end. The little man always pays. Now, did you see the NPR article displayed at the 9-minute, 8-second mark? The title was Boeing and Airbus Halt Production. The Future of Airplane Manufacturing Uncertain. It was dated April the 6th, 2020. What were they telling us in this video? Was Boeing already self-sabotaging itself under orders? It sure looks like it. Think about it. If the world is moving to a form of medieval technocracy, then jet airplanes won't be required for the masses because no one will be able to afford to fly, even if they were allowed to leave their 15-minute smart city ghettos. At some point, large Boeing and Airbus jets are going to become obsolete. Now ask yourself this. Why would the beast need antiquated flying tubes with wings when he has advanced supersonic TR-3B levitating aircraft? Why would he need the jet planes, the current jet plane technology? As marvelous as they are antiquated compared to the TR-3B technologies. Why would he need them? To keep chemtrailing the skies? Maybe. Maybe they'll keep a few to keep chemtrailing the skies to the bitter end. Of course, this TR-3B advanced aircraft technology, which is never shown to people, will only be for the use of the small group of Jesuit rulers. We know what advanced technology they have because we've seen them captured on camera in different parts of the world. Think about this. As marvelous as planes with wings are, they are antiquated compared to the technologies the Jesuits really have. Here's an excerpt taken from the European Parliament website dated 2022, 3 years ago. It's titled, Question for the European Union Aviation Safety Agency, or the EASA. Have the multiple side effects of vaccines affected pilots and aviation safety? This is dated the 9th of May, 2022. Excuse me. And I quote, according to the EASA's annual safety report of 2021, 25% of accidents and serious incidents on commercial aircraft are related to human factors. This is why the health of flight crews is so closely monitored. The consumption of alcohol and use of drugs or medication that could impair their abilities before a flight have long been prohibited. When it comes to COVID vaccines, our understanding of the benefit-risk ratio of these new substances is constantly evolving. Hear that word? Evolving in 2022. The question states it is now known, or the reply to the statement of the question is, it is now known that these vaccines do not prevent transmission of the virus. In March 2021, the EASA recommended that pilots be required to wait 48 hours after receiving an injection before commencing duty. 72 hours even for solo pilots. After 10,992 deaths and 1.4 million side effects following a COVID vaccination reported by the European Medicine Agency, EMA, as of 14 July 2022, the EASA should analyze whether this injection is more risky than the disease itself for aircrew and whether it has posed a risk with regard to aviation safety. Did you hear that? 10,992 deaths and 1.4 million side effects following a COVID vaccination, reported as of 14 July 2022. They were already weighing up the risk to pilots. Now, there's two questions at the end of the statement. Number one, has the EASA identified or assessed an aviation safety alert related to COVID vaccinations? And number two, how many pilot incapacitations and medical diversions affecting either passengers or crew members have occurred annually in Europe since 2017? These two questions have never been answered since 2022. I wonder why. Now, if you want to read that, you can go to the website at www.europarl.europa.eu, and look for that document on COVID vaccine and pilot flight risks. Very important, this information, people. It shows you where they were at the time, but what have they done about it? That's what we don't hear. 10,992 deaths from the vaccinations that they had recorded and 1.4 million side effects. They were well aware in 2022, July 2022, of the risk to pilots being injected with COVID injections. But what did they do about it? That's the question. We don't know. In another article titled Analysis of Obituaries shows a 40% increase in deaths of younger pilots during 2021. 40% increase. That was posted by the yogaesoteric.net website on July the 8th, 2023, 2 years ago, by Dr. Kevin Stillwagon, who is a retired chiropractor, airline captain, inventor, author, and lecturer. Now he states, and I quote, claims continue to circulate on the internet that airline pilot deaths have increased exponentially since the COVID injection was mandated in early 2021. My investigation of the airline pilot deaths that appeared in the Airline Pilot magazine published by the Airline Pilots Association, or ALPA, ALPA, shows a 2.3% increase in pilot deaths in 2021 over 2020. 2.3% increase. There was a slight, insignificant increase, certainly not exponential. What is significant, however, was the 40% rise in the incidence of pilots dying prior to the normal retirement age of 65. Yeah, 40%. This increase occurred in the year 2021. Hello? First year of the shots. Until proven otherwise, the mandated COVID injection is the cause. Unquote. He then goes on to say, and I quote again, a more accurate method of gathering data would be to take the pilot seniority lists from all airlines and compare the lists from November of 2020 to the most recent seniority lists. This would take a tremendous amount of work, as many of the pilots who disappeared from the lists may have retired, quit, or even moved on to a different airline. An obituary would be needed to verify the pilot died and what age. At what age. Just going through these steps with the reported deaths in the ALPA magazine since January of 2019 through the present time took hundreds of hours. Unquote. Yes, very difficult to find this information and put it together to get an accurate picture. He then goes on to say, and I quote, since that time, it has become even more apparent that the chance of a sudden unexpected death increases significantly with booster injections. He states, it took about 2 years for scientists to discover these unforeseen physiological mechanisms that explain what they expected to occur before mRNA COVID-19 vaccines were introduced into billions of humans and thousands of pilots. 2 years should have been the minimum amount of time dedicated to the safety and efficacy trials that only lasted a few months. And these were done on animals. Did they really experiment on humans? Yes, I do believe they did. And I believe that all these people died. And that will never, ever be reported. He goes on to say at the time, at the time these injections were mandated and forced into airline pilots, they were experimental and still are experimental. The Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, guidelines prohibit the use of experimental drugs in pilots. Hear that, people? The FAA overruled its own guidelines in enforcing airlines to inject their pilots with experimental drugs. Even after a drug is Food and a Drug Administration or FDA approved, the guidelines do not allow pilots to use the drug until a full year has passed. This allows time to identify any adverse reactions in the general population that might affect the safety of flight. Think about all these facts, people, very carefully. He says, it can be weakly argued that the injection is not a drug, but a vaccine. However, the guidelines for vaccines state that vaccines must be FDA approved. None of the injections were FDA approved when they started going into pilots in December of 2020. Pfizer got FDA approval to make Comirnaty on the 23rd of August 2021, almost a year later. Moderna got FDA approval to make Spikevax on the 31st of January 22, even later. And Spikevax was not in the marketplace until the 1st of April 2022. Comirnaty was not available until 18th of May 2022, a year and a half after the mandate. So you can see what's going on here. They are shuffling vaccines. They are overriding legislation, guidelines, rules in order to inject pilots. He goes on to say, Pfizer's BNT 162b2 injection got emergency use authorization on the 11th of December 2020. Emergency use authorization. The very next day, the FAA stated that it was safe for commercial airline pilots to get the injection. Can you see this? What criminal action this is? This decision was based on the belief that the FDA and the Centers for Disease Control, or CDC, had rigorously tested the injection to prove it was safe and effective. No, they knew that these injections were not safe and effective. They knew it, and they still ordered pilots to be injected. The vaccine manufacturers set up the trials and the tests, not the FDA, not the CDC. That's correct. The manufacturers compile the results, supposedly overseen by a third party. No way. The results are then pitched to the advisory committees of the FDA and the CDC. And the Vaccine and Related Biological Products Advisory Committee, or VRBPAC, advises the FDA. The Advisory Committee of Immunization Practices, or ACIP, advises the CDC. Some members of these committees have ties to the pharmaceutical industry, yet they say there is no conflict of interest. We've been through all of this over the last few years, people. How corrupt and wicked this system really is. And none of the shots, he says, were safe for pilots. Correct. He says a known adverse event of special interest, or AESI, is myocarditis. In fact, the summary basis for regulatory action, or SBRA, for Comirnaty vaccine requires Pfizer to track and document myocarditis with various reports at specific times due until the year 2027. Do you think they're going to do this? No way. He goes on to say an SBRA is a document that provides a comprehensive summary of the scientific and clinical data submitted to a regulatory authority such as the FDA for a new drug, biologic, or medical device. It serves as a basis for regulatory action, including approval or denial of the product. And then he posts a link saying, here is a link to the document where you can word search myocarditis. In 2023, not many people really were hearing too much about myocarditis, at least not in early 2023. It started to come out a little bit later. The document also, he says, requires reports on subclinical myocarditis. Subclinical means asymptomatic, implying that the pilot could have myocarditis without knowing it. Right. He says since subclinical myocarditis can result in sudden heart failure without warning, the possibility of two pilots with subclinical myocarditis being in command of a passenger aircraft at the same time is real and potentially dangerous, unquote. This man was right on the money. He understood exactly, way back in 2023, what was going on and where this could all lead to. Now, if you want to read that article, you can go to yogaesoteric.net / analysis of obituaries shows a 40 increase in deaths of younger pilots during 2021. Now, all major airlines imposed the shots on their pilots starting in very early 2021. No pilot could fly without them. There were 56,500 commercial pilots in the USA in August 2023, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Delta Airlines made a public statement announcing this requirement in 2021. Pilots had no choice except to get vaccinated or retire. 56,500 commercial pilots in the USA alone. And all those pilots are either still working and their physical status is unknown, or they're sick and retired, or they're dead. And we don't know how many of those 56,500 original pilots from early 2021 are still alive, still working, still flying airplanes. Should that be a worry to the public? You better believe it. That's a disaster just waiting to happen. Now, in another article titled, Delta will require COVID-19 vaccine for new employees, posted May 14, 2021 by Reuters.com, we read this, and I quote, Delta Airlines will require all new hires in the United States to be vaccinated against COVID-19, one of the first major companies to issue such a mandate. They quoted, any person joining Delta in the future employees, we're going to mandate they be vaccinated before they can sign up with the company. Chief Executive Ed Bastian told CNN in an interview late Thursday. Delta is not making the requirement for current employees, he said. That's not true. That's a lie. The current employees at that time in 2021 were required to vaccinate. He says more than 60% of Delta's employees are already vaccinated, according to the company. You see? He says we're not requiring it, but they are 60% already are. 2021. Of course they were required. While private U.S. companies can require employees to get vaccinated against COVID-19, experts have said they could put themselves at risk of legal and cultural backlash if they do so. Really? Legal and cultural backlash? No way. Everyone was pressured by their employers to be vaccinated in 2021. That's a fact. And none of these companies received any legal or cultural backlash, I can assure you. Everybody just marched to the vaccine clinic and did as they were told, just as the airline employees did. Now, the article goes on to say Delta's Bastian noted, however, that employees who are not vaccinated may not be able to work on international flights given possible entry requirements by other countries. That's how they got them. Right there. They couldn't fly out of the country. So they just thought, oh, this is pointless. I'll just go get vaccinated. This is how they got everybody, people. Now, that same Delta spokesman went on to say, we know the vaccines are the best tool we have to protect one another and bring an end to the pandemic, Delta said in a statement on Friday. It called the move to require vaccines for new hires important as our business recovers and demand for air travel continues to rise. Delta is among U.S. airlines that plan to resume pilot hiring this year after a freeze on hires during the pandemic. So you can see they got everybody with these rules. Well, you can't fly overseas. Well, you don't have to. But then you might not be able to fly. They got everybody. Now, the article says among its large peers, United Airlines CEO Scott Kirby said in January that he may mandate vaccinations for employees and called on other companies to do the same, but has yet to make a move in that direction. Oh no, they made the move. The article goes on to say a United spokesman on Friday said there was no change to the company's policy. There you go. See there. Yes, maybe. Oh, no. No, we didn't. Oh, we're going to do it. No, no, we're not. Yes, we are. See, this is how they do it. They got everybody with this backwards and forwards two-step. This is how Satan does it, with words. Now, the same article says American Airlines said it does not plan to require the vaccine unless it is mandatory for entry into certain destinations. And of course, it was mandatory for every destination. It says to encourage inoculation, it has offered employees who get the vaccine an additional vacation day in 2022 and a $50 gift card. See? They were giving out these little gifts. Satan was giving out his little trinkets to everybody to get vaccinated. An additional vacation day. $50 gift cards. Krispy Kreme donuts, beer, entrance to brothels, Rolex watches. It's unbelievable how people sold their souls for an extra day vacation. The article says, as of June 2024, Delta Airlines had around 16,700 pilots. Delta plans to hire a little over 1,000 pilots in 2024, which is about half the number of pilots it hired in 2023. All of those 16,700 pilots are COVID-19 injected and therefore subject to neurological attacks and heart attacks at any time. All injected people. They're all there, up there. Tens of thousands of them flying airplanes, these huge machines, waiting for a myocarditis episode or a died suddenly episode. Now, did American Airlines and United Airlines follow suit with Delta? You bet they did. They were told to do so or else. Was that ever announced publicly? I could not find that. All employees had to be vaccinated to keep their jobs. Remember that this is May 2021 and nothing has changed. American Airlines had 15,000 pilots working for them as of 2024. United Airlines had 15,445 pilots working for them in 2023. Those numbers have probably increased. Add the big three together and you get more than 47,000 pilots tested, injected, and flying a range of planes carrying up to 850 passengers for the Airbus A380. Southwest Airlines did the same thing. So did JetBlue. So did Alaskan Airlines. So did Hawaiian Airlines. So did Spirit Airlines and Frontier Airlines, etc., etc., etc. They all vaccinated in 2021 and have been vaccinating since. Hundreds of thousands of airline pilots and staff in the USA and worldwide. What could that possibly mean for safety? It means disaster is looming because many of these people, if they are still working, are now reaching the 3 to 5 year threshold for sickness or sudden death from the clot shots. Now, if you want to read the source article for what I'm claiming here, then go to the website at airfarewatchdog.com, blog, airlines requiring COVID-19 vaccines for employees. And look for an article titled Airline Requiring COVID-19 Vaccines for Employees, posted October 21, 2021. Now, information about vaccine injured, retired, or dead pilots or airline staff is extremely difficult to come by. Excuse me. It's almost as if it's been buried or erased, as if it never existed. The Jesuits do not want anyone to know the true story about this. Excuse me. Now, one indicator that the sickness and death toll is very high is the shortage of pilots worldwide. That's the red flag right there. This isn't because suddenly the airlines have expanded rapidly and they need a lot of new pilots. That's a lie. A web source declares this about the situation. And I quote, as of August 2023, there were 56,500 commercial pilots in the United States, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The U.S. is experiencing a pilot shortage, and the demand for pilots is expected to grow. To meet demand, the U.S. would need to train 87 new pilots every day for the next 20 years, according to the Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA. Factors contributing to the shortage are listed as declining wages, aging pilot population, and growing demand. Don't believe a word of this nonsense. These are not the real reasons for the shortage, for the pilot shortage. They simply can't and won't tell us the truth about the fallout of the COVID-19 tests and injections on aircrew. They can't tell us. Now, another source says, and I quote, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics estimates that there are about 16,800 job openings for airline pilots every year. Boeing projects a global need for nearly 2.4 million new commercial pilots, technicians, and cabin crew. Unquote. Yeah, well, that's never going to happen. Not with the way things are going. The truth is, the fake COVID pandemic and deadly tests and injections took many pilots out of the workforce due to injury or death. Many also retired voluntarily in order to avoid vaccination. And I heard pilot testimonies, pilots who actually stated this. Between January and October 2021, many pilots heard what had happened to vaccinated pilot colleagues, and they quit the airlines. That's a fact, people. Now let's move on to aircraft safety. What is going on with aircraft safety and with Boeing in particular? Remember that Boeing has been a Jesuit-owned company since 1929, when the company was purchased by the Roman Catholic cult for pennies in the dollar after the Wall Street crash. Boeing was called the United Aircraft and Transport Corporation at that time. Many other major American blue-chip corporations like Goodyear, Standard Oil, U.S. Steel, General Motors, Ford Motors, and General Electric were also bought by the Jesuits at that time. This is how Rome acquired ownership of American industry. The four largest commercial airline manufacturers today are Boeing, Airbus, Embraer, and Bombardier. Now, Boeing fired 17,000 employees, which is 10% of its workforce, in December 2024, just a few months ago. 17,000. Airbus fired 5% of its workforce, or 2,500 workers, also in December 2024. What's going on there? Bombardier laid off 1,600 staff 4 years ago and is practically insolvent financially. Embraer fired 4.5% of its staff, or around 900 jobs, in 2020. I couldn't find anything more recent, but I guarantee that all these airline companies are downsizing. It's just not noticeable. There is an aircraft shortage, but all plane makers are laying off staff and scaling back operations. Why? The COVID pandemic is being used as the scapegoat by the Jesuits. My prediction is that aircraft production and air transport will gradually reduce going forward until few passenger planes are flying. The Jesuits will scapegoat everything to mask this new normal. The reality is that as fewer new planes are built, many older planes at the same time or aging planes are being removed from service. We can only arrive at one conclusion. In the near future, few planes will be flying, and only with essential elite travelers working for the beast system. That's where I think this is all going. Are commercial aircraft really becoming more unsafe? This is what the MSM want you and I, us, to believe indirectly. In reality, airplanes have become very technically advanced in the last 20 years. So why have there been so many aircraft accidents and incidents in the news over the last 2 years especially? Once again, the first reason is the compromising of pilot health from the COVID tests and shots. The second can only be from mechanical safety failure, whether genuine or planned. The third is a world breakdown of the air traffic control system. It's a slow breakdown. The fourth is genuine chance weather or bird strike events, which do occur on occasion. But these aren't the problem. Number 4 isn't the problem. Now, a CNN article titled "Flying is Getting Worse If You Can Believe It," posted on Wednesday, March the 12th, 2025, by CNN, has this to say, and I quote, "For decades now, we the people, really? We the people have been remarkably tolerant of all the nickel and diming the air travel industrial complex has unleashed on us." Wow. And in brackets, that's largely because of rampant industry consolidation that's made U.S. airlines less competitive and more cartel-like. But that's a rant for another day. Brackets. Point is, flying sucks and it's getting worse. As if we don't have and wave hands at everything to worry about. Everything, right? They've got everything to worry about. Airlines are bracing for a slowdown in travel. See the conflicting reports? Aircraft travel is slowing down. No, it's increasing. We can't get enough airplanes. There's demand. Too much demand. No, it's slowing down. This on and off. Yes and no. Backwards and forwards. In the narrative online, in all these news stories is unbelievable. It's really, really hard to keep track of all the discrepancies. The article says Delta, Southwest, and American Airlines all cut their first quarter financial forecast this week. On top of that, Delta and United said they're reducing their capacity for summer travel. Watch more chaos if we get there. The article says it's not entirely clear why, but it may have something to do with the 2 terrifying plane crashes in the first 2 months of this year. The lingering memory of Boeing's door plug blowout just over a year ago, bad weather leading to delays and cancellations, wildfires, mass layoffs leading people to rein in their expenses, businesses scaling back travel because they don't know whether tariff policies are going to hamstring their operations, unquote. Where is the COVID narrative in there? Listen to all the lame excuses for airline decisions. No mention at all of the COVID pandemic and vaccine sickness, autoimmune disease sickness on airline operations for 5 years now. Nothing. That is the massive elephant in the room. Now, another article from Greenville News titled, "Have there been more plane accidents this year than in 2024? Here's what the data shows." Was posted on February 26, 2025, and says this, and I quote, "How many plane crashes have occurred in 2024 and 2025? Last year, there were 1,417 aviation crashes. Wow, 1,417. In January, there were 80 crashes and 93 in February. There were 258 fatal plane crashes in 2024, with 19 in January and 12 in February. So far this year, there have been 99 aviation accidents, with 63 total crashes in January and 36 in February. 14 of those crashes were fatal, 10 in January and 4 in February. Takeoff and landing, the article says, and the time periods before and after these events remain the most dangerous times when flying. That's true. It says air travel is still considered to be a safer means of traveling compared to train travel, which has 0.04 deaths per 100 million miles. In comparison, air travel has 0.01 deaths per 100 million miles traveled. Pilot error is believed to account for 53% of aircraft accidents, mechanical failure 21%, and weather conditions 11% follows behind, unquote. Now, you can see, comparing aircraft accidents to train accidents, car accidents, is useless, and they do this all the time. There's no comparison to a plane falling out of the sky to two cars bumping each other in an intersection. Come on! This is what they do all the time. It's safe. Well, it was safe before 2019, but not anymore. So it's unclear. It's clear that more than 50% of the time, pilot error is to blame for accidents and incidents. Now, how many of these errors were caused from repeated COVID testing and injections affecting the brain and heart functions of pilots? That's my question. Now remember, the pilots have to keep on testing. The air crew have to keep on testing. Periodically, they've got to test to prove that they don't have COVID. Yes, people. This stuff is building up in air crew. No matter what job they're doing, it's building up over time. Tests and injections. And at some point, there's going to be disaster. In another article titled, Tragic Holiday Week Leaves 2024 as the Deadliest in 6 Years for Aviation, posted by globalair.com on December the 30th, 2024. And this is what we read, and I quote, "There were no fatalities last year, 2023, on commercial jet flights, according to the group, and 72 deaths on turboprop aircraft. IATA, the International Air Traffic Association, called 2023 the safest year on record for aviation. Now, data from aviation analytics firm Cirium, as reported by Bloomberg, shows that there have been 318 fatalities this year in commercial passenger aircraft. On December 24th, 2024, the collective toll was 101. Good number to finish up on, huh? 101. The article states only 2 other years in the past decade surpassed 2018, according to Cirium records, and numbers in both of those years were driven higher because of the intentional downing of aircraft. In 2018, there were 507 deaths recorded in crashes. Of those, 224 people died when a Russian airline branded as Metrojet Flight 9268 exploded in flight over the Sinai Peninsula in a bombing attributed to the Sinai branch of the Islamic State group. In 2014, there were 945 fatalities recorded by Cirium. That year, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 disappeared from radar over the Indian Ocean with 239 people on board, all of whom are presumed dead. It's believed that a pilot intentionally crashed the Boeing 777, unquote. Now that is all lies right there. From research that I have done, it is absolutely clear that Malaysia Flight MH370 did not disappear from radar. No, it didn't. and it did not crash, but was commandeered and flown to an undisclosed location for nefarious reasons. But that is a story for another day. And you can go and you can read that article at globalair.com. A Forbes article titled "Airline Crash Rate is Just 7 per 41 million flights," report says, was posted on February 26, 2025. The article states, and I quote, "Last week, Luton, England-based travel data provider OAG released its annual compilation of airline operations. A breakdown provided by OAG for this story showed that the 8 leading U.S. airlines operated 8.2 million flights in 2024. American, the largest carrier measured by flights, operated 5,949 flights daily. Until last month, U.S. commercial aviation had not recorded a fatal accident since 2009. He goes on to quote, or say, excuse me, "With millions of scheduled flights a year from U.S.-based airlines, the aviation industry continues to represent one of the safest methods of public transport available," said John Grant, OAG chief analyst, in an email. The IATA safety report noted that the global industry's 2024 performance took a step back from an exceptional performance in 2023. The all-accident rate of 1.13 per million flights, or 1 accident per 880,000 flights, was better than the 5-year average of 1.25, but worse than the 1.09 recorded in 2023, the report said. The rate of 7 fatal accidents for the 40.6 million flights in 2024 is higher than the single fatal accident recorded in 2023, and the 5-year average is 5 fatal accidents, the report said. The 244 onboard fatalities in 2024 compares to the 72 fatalities reported in 2023, and the 5-year average is 144, unquote. Wow. You see how they bamboozle us with statistics. What does this all mean anyways? What does it all mean? Any airline accident is a total disaster because of the fatalities in the air and on the ground. So, by making it sound like it's so safe, it's a false sense of security, is what it is. So what does this all mean? Nothing really. The MSM is trying to paint a wonderful picture of air safety so that people will keep flying without thinking about what is happening to pilots, airplanes, and air travel. And you can read that article at www.forbes.com. And I think the report, airlines flew 406 million flights in 2024 with 7 fatal accidents. All right. So it's too bad if you happen to be on those 7 fatal flights, right? Now, yes, airline travel was safe. But my point is, not anymore. And the last 2 years demonstrate this. Now, The Guardian posted an article titled "Plane Crashes Have People Freaked Out, but Here's What U.S. Data for 2025 Shows." And that was posted on Saturday, March the 1st, 2025. Here's what it says. People across the USA are worried about flight safety after several high-profile plane crashes this year, including a commercial crash in Washington, D.C. that killed 67 people. Google searches for "is flying safe" have jumped in recent weeks. No kidding. But the numbers suggest 2025 has actually been a relatively safe year to fly, at least in terms of the overall number of accidents. This is how they assuage people's fears. This is how they do it. These words. It's not as safe as they say it is, people. January and February typically have about 20 fatal aviation accidents per month. Typically? Really? I guess those January and February are not good months to fly, right? It says that according to numbers from the National Transportation Safety Board, or the NTSB, by contrast, this January there were only 10 fatal aviation accidents, and in February there were 6. The data covers all U.S. civil aviation from large commercial planes to private jets. Donald Trump seized on the Washington crash as an opportunity to criticize diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI programs. He claimed the Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, commitment to hiring people with disabilities was one reason why our country was going to hell. It goes on to say his administration decided earlier this month fire to fire about 400 of the FAA's 45,000 employees, prompting concerns about aviation safety. On Thursday, a judge temporarily halted Trump's mass firings. It says he looked like a fool advancing that theory within hours of the tragedy, Goltz said of the president's analysis. People were treated again to his underlying cruelty, unquote. So there's a lot of craziness going on, people, with the Donald Trump thing. And then the reality of what is happening in these 3 areas with aircraft safety, air pilot safety, and the air systems control safety, these 3 areas. It's not what they're telling us. The whole purpose of these incidents is to raise the fear factor in the population. The Jesuits will do whatever it takes, including killing people in what appear to be accidents, in order to achieve their goals. Now, I'm not saying that some of these accidents weren't legitimate. What I'm saying is a lot of this is planned to happen one way or another, even whether it's made to look like an accident. There's an agenda behind what is happening with airplanes. And you and I should be very, very aware of this. Now, in an article titled Aviation and Plane Crash Statistics, posted by PanishLaw.com earlier this year, says this, and I quote, "In under 2 weeks, in 2025, 3 plane crashes occurred in the United States, resulting in 78 fatalities. It is still accurate to say that plane travel is among the safest modes of transportation." See how they all parrot the same thing? All parroting the same line. However, it says, when aviation accidents do occur, the results are often catastrophic. No kidding. Understatement. It says there are no such things as minor airplane collisions or crash landings. These occurrences are devastating, life-altering events. Aviation accident rates have gone down in recent years, but the growing popularity of private jet travel and helicopter flights may soon reverse that trend. This is nonsense. Private jet travel and helicopter flights have been going on for decades. People have been flying everywhere. This is not a new trend. Now, the article states that, excuse me, the article states that statistics show that up to 80% of all aviation accidents can be attributed to human error. 80%. You see, some articles it's 50%, some 53%, some 60%. This one says 80%. What do you want to believe? I personally would go with the 80%. And particularly now that all the pilots worldwide are injected with the COVID clot shots. The article says the most dangerous times include takeoff and landing and the time periods before and after these accidents. And I read this before in another article. It says pilot error is thought to account for 53% of aircraft accidents, with mechanical failure 21, weather conditions 11, following behind. So you can see that articles are parroting the same statistics. So if 80% of all aviation accidents can be attributed to human error, what they're saying is that 53 belong to the pilots and the other percentage belongs to maintenance crew, repair crew, whatever, whoever's working with airlines. So it's clear that 80% is a very high number for human error, whether deliberately executed or accidentally done, right? Now here's the public response to the lifting of air travel restrictions in late 2021. This is exactly what the Jesuits were expecting from human behavior. Crowds of people rushing to get air tickets to fly somewhere. Absolutely assaulting airports in droves. Fox News San Diego posted an article titled "International Travelers Flock to U.S. on the first day of eased COVID-19 restrictions." That was posted on November the 8th, 2021. Now, the article states, and I quote, "Parents had held children born while they were stuck abroad for a year. Some people were stuck abroad for longer. Long separated couples kissed and grandparents embraced grandchildren who had doubled in age. All these people are injected. Remember that. The people that flew and the people that went into these airports were all tested and injected." The article states the U.S. fully reopened to many vaccinated international travelers Monday, allowing families and friends to reunite for the first time since the coronavirus emerged and offering a boost to the travel industry decimated by the pandemic. You see? It was decimated. So all the claims I'm making are true. The article states the restrictions closed the U.S. to millions of people for 20 months. Nearly 2 years. People were stuck abroad. How do they survive? I don't know. I really don't know. But I've heard some horror stories. Now, the article says that Octavio Alvarez and his 14-year-old daughter zipped through a pedestrian crossing in San Diego in less than 15 minutes on their way to visit his mother-in-law in California. I have no idea why that's in the article. He says, "It's a big feeling," said Alvarez, 43, who lives in Ensenada, Mexico, a 2-hour drive from San Diego. Prior to the pandemic, his family would visit California twice a month. The emotional cost of the border restrictions were very high, he added. Yeah, emotional. The article says American citizens and permanent residents were always allowed to enter the U.S., but the travel bans grounded tourists, thwarted business travelers, and often keep families far apart. Travelers must have proof of vaccination and a negative COVID-19 test. Unquote. Can you see what I'm saying? Everybody got caught in the Jesuits' COVID net. They all got tested and injected in order to move around freely. They lost their lives because of this desire to move and go, because they felt it was their right. The article goes on to state that the U.S. will accept travelers who have been fully vaccinated with any of the shots approved for emergency use by the World Health Organization, not just those in use in the U.S. That's a relief for many in Canada, where the AstraZeneca vaccine is widely used. But millions of people around the world who were vaccinated with Russia's Sputnik 5 or China's CanSino or other shots not approved by the WHO will not be able to travel to the U.S. Unquote. It says here, testing and quarantine requirements remained obstacles for others. A mobile testing truck was parked near the Peace Bridge in New York, promising test results, in 30 minutes for $225 and next day results for $160. Unquote. It's all the same article. Can you see how people were making money from the tests during this fake pandemic? Wickedness. Remember, this article was posted November 8th, 2021. So they're talking about what was happening at that time. Now that, like I said, was being reported in November 2021. The right vaccine fiasco was a total lie. Every one of the 23 COVID vaccine brands were exactly the same stuff. This technology was shared by all countries. It all came out of the same pot with a different brand on the vial. People were being manipulated right from the start with the good vaccine, bad vaccine, WHO, World Health Organization, CDC, FDA deception. How could the Chinese and Russian shots not be approved by the World Health Authority? It's not possible. Also, how could the Russians and Chinese develop a COVID vaccine in virtually the same time period as the British and American companies? What are the chances? It's not possible. The vaccines were all the same. Brand names was a total deception in order to scapegoat certain companies later, which is exactly what they did. J&J was scapegoated. AstraZeneca was scapegoated. Pfizer was scapegoated. Even Moderna got some scapegoating. And this is how they do it, people. That article came from fox5dc.com website. You can find that easily. I think the article's called News International Travelers Flock to U.S. Now, a Fox News article titled COVID-19 in Pictures, Photographer captures air travel's contrast in 2020-2021, and posted on December 20, 2021, stated this: the U.S., and I quote, the U.S. fully reopened to many vaccinated international travelers earlier this month, allowing families and friends to reunite for the first time since the coronavirus emerged and offering a boost to the travel industry decimated by the pandemic. The restrictions closed the U.S. to millions of people for 20 months. I'm continually repeating this information. Why? Because this is important to understand the time periods and what was going on during those time periods, because that is what has dictated why we are where we are now and what is happening now. The article says Delta Airlines said it has seen a 450% increase in international point-of-sale bookings versus the 6 weeks prior to the announcement of the U.S. welcoming vaccinated foreigners only. The article states, this is the start of a new era for travel and for many people around the world who have not been able to see loved ones for almost 2 years, said Ed Bastian. There's that Ed Bastian again, Delta's CEO, unquote. A new era for travel. New era is code for New World Order or New Age travel. So at the end of 2021, only vaccinated travelers could fly, and there must have been a lot of people flying because a 450% increase within a 6-week period is massive. This illustrates how many people were eager to mask, test, and inject just to buy air tickets. Has it stopped? Nope. Unbelievable. Most of the people flying today are already vaccinated. Vast majority. They were vaccinated between 2021 and 2024. Or 2023, possibly. They were caught in the Jesuits' vaccine marking net worldwide. Let's move on to air traffic control. A CNN article titled, "Not Just Reagan, Airports Across the U.S. Have Struggled with Air Traffic Control Staffing in Recent Years, Data Shows," was posted on January 31st, 2025. And it states this. So this is a very current article from CNN, from the dragon's mouth. And I quote, "When an American Airlines flight fatally collided with a military helicopter near Reagan National Airport Wednesday night, the airport's tower wasn't fully staffed, with one traffic controller handling the jobs of two people." It says, but the situation was hardly an anomaly. Airports around the country have struggled with controller staffing levels for years. For a year? No, years. A long time, according to a CNN review of government data and interviews with aviation experts. The article states the most recent data from the Federal Aviation Administration shows that across all airport towers and terminal approach facilities nationwide, only about 70% of staffing targets were filled by fully certified controllers as of September 2023. When controllers in training are included, that rose to about 79%. The article states some traffic control towers at major airports around the country, including Philadelphia, Orlando, Austin, Albuquerque, and Milwaukee, had less than 60% of their staffing targets filled with certified controllers. Reagan Airport had about 63%. The article states air traffic controllers in the U.S. have been warning about the impact of low staffing levels for years, submitting anonymous reports to NASA's Aviation Safety Reporting System. NASA. These reports go to NASA. At least 10 reports submitted by controllers included concerns about staffing, work schedules, or fatigue in the last year alone, the NASA database shows. Excuse me. Now, why would all these reports be going to NASA? Ask yourself that question. To regulate them, that's why. Just censor them. Is this the true report? I don't think so. I think it's worse. This is what we're being told. The article states, "We have been short-staffed for too many years, and it's creating so many unsafe situations," one controller in Southern California wrote last year, recounting how a small aircraft requesting assistance could not be helped due to workload issues. The FAA has created an unsafe environment to work and for the flying public. The controller's mental health is deteriorating. The article goes on to say, "We are already on forced 6-day work weeks, working overtime every week," another controller in Northern California wrote. "This leads to controller fatigue very quickly. We need more staffing." There were more reports of such incidents at Reagan National, which processes over 25 million passengers per year, than at any of the top 10 busiest airports in the country. Pilots and controllers coming through DCA reported at least 50 incidents of aircraft being forced to move out of the way of other planes or helicopters in the past 10 years. That is a big warning sign, people. Excuse me. The article states Las Vegas, where nearly 60 million travelers pass through the airport every year, counted more than 40 reports of evasive action in the ASRS database over the last decade. 40 sounds very, very small. I would put it more like 400. Just double it, triple it, quadruple it. These figures I don't believe are true. In Miami, the article states, which sees double DCA's passengers per year, but only filled 60% of its target control tower staffing with fully certified controllers, in September 2023, pilots and controllers reported about 36 incidents in which they said aircraft needed to take action to avoid collision in the past 10 years. In 2023, after a series of close calls at airports around the country, the FAA commissioned a safety review of the national airspace system. 13 years it took for them to call a safety review. The article states an independent team produced a report that found inadequate air traffic control staffing combined with outdated equipment and technology was rendering the current level of safety unsustainable. The report added that overtime among air traffic controllers had reached historically high levels and contributed to absences and fatigue, and I dare say errors, many mistakes. The article states with fewer eyes on the airspace, the opportunity for mistakes in instruction is multiplied. The report stated, noting there were about 1,000 fewer fully certified air traffic controllers in August 2023 than in August 2012, despite more complexity in the national airspace. The National Air Traffic Controllers Association and Union has also been warning about staffing shortages for more than a decade. Unquote. Now, the big question here is, why has nothing been done to correct this situation for more than 10 years now? Well, the reason is because the ATC, or the air traffic controllers, is a great scapegoat to blame for accidents. There will be more accidents and incidents, and most of them we'll never hear about in the news. The problem, as always, is no one at the top will be held accountable when something happens. Now, an article on globalaero.com website states this, and I quote, "If we begin by looking at the largest overview, there were 5,182 occurrences to aircraft and 1,274 associated fatalities around the world in 2023, according to the Aviation Safety Network database. It's a breathtaking number since we tend to be country geocentric and don't hear about incidents in the rest of the world. And that's true. We don't hear all the incidents and accidents every day in the news everywhere in the world. So we don't think anything is happening. Automatically, we assume in our minds, we think, well, there's nothing happening because we're not hearing anything. All done by design people. The article says, however, using this data can help us track universal pilot behavior and understand the trends of accidents. From minor incidents to substantial damage, each time an aircraft is operated outside the safety envelope, it becomes a reportable occurrence. And then in brackets, however, many incidents will never be reported. Unquote. Many incidents will never be reported. That's true. That's correct. That's the truth. And that's why no one knows that flying has far more risks than are ever reported. Excuse me. The Jesuits want people to keep on flying until they do a rug pull, until they say so. They don't want people stopping. There's reasons for that, because they're not quite ready yet for the great big crash, the great big rug pull. Now, that article concludes by saying, no one likes sharing their mistakes with the world. All pilots fear the punitive fallout for admitting an error that could have caused harm. And for professional pilots, acknowledging mistakes could also mean the loss of employment. However, there are several aviation communities and foundations that gather this information and keep it anonymous. Unquote. anonymous. Well, isn't that just wonderful? This means that pilots must be the biggest liars in the world. First of all, by not reporting the mistakes they make, and secondly, by not even talking about the fact that there was a mistake. Think about that. They would have to be the best liars in the world, the biggest liars in the world, if what this article says is true, and I believe it is true. And isn't that wonderful to know? Pilots keep silent, and so do reporting authorities, so that no alarm is ever raised. Can you see where that is all going? With 20,000 planes in the air every hour of any day, anywhere in the world? Is this happening with air traffic control in every country? Of course it is. Those systems are all linked together. It's one system, not many systems, people. It's one giant system. That's why they can track aircraft right across the flat Earth plane, and they can know exactly where aircraft is. So to say an aircraft disappeared off the radar is a lie. It's not true. So the International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO, is a UN Image of the Beast World Government agency established in 1947, controlling all air traffic across 193 countries worldwide. The beast can pull a psyop with airplanes anytime, anywhere he wants, with full cooperation from all the other agencies interconnected with air travel. The beast can shoot down commercial jets, as he has already done, anytime he wants. Remember Malaysian Airlines flight MH17 shot down over the Ukraine in July 2014? And Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243 shot at over Russia and crashed in Kazakhstan in December 2024, a few months ago. There are many other examples. Now, you can find that information from the article at CNN. The article is that web link is titled U.S. Air Traffic Control Staffing Nationwide Problem. So, Wikipedia says in 2021, there were 13 commercial airline crashes. 2022, there was 10. 2023, there was 6. 2024, there was 17. 2025, in just 2 months, there's already been 5. Can you see what I'm saying? Can you see what the figures show? They're going to try to keep this suppressed, and most people will never see it. But I'm doing my best to bring it out here as to where airlines and air travel is going. Now, a CNN article reported Friday, March 14th this year. And the article was titled American Airlines Plane Engine Catches Fire at Denver Airport. Now, this is just recently. The article states an American Airlines plane engine caught fire at Denver International Airport after the aircraft was diverted there Thursday evening. Officials said forcing passengers to deplane onto the aircraft's wing as smoke enveloped the plane. Once again, can you see what is going on here? They're using an escalation of airplane accidents or incidents to scare people away from traveling. Now, what is all this information? And there's a lot more information, and I don't have time to bring it out here. What does this all mean for us now? What did the fake pandemic do? Well, it changed the thinking and behavior of people worldwide forever, and it embedded the idea of virus and vaccine as normal in their minds. This includes all air traffic personnel worldwide. Now think what this means about the critical day-to-day performance for tested and injected pilots, air crew, and ATC personnel worldwide. Literally, the mind boggles when we understand the implications. There is a disaster of epic proportions, or maybe a string of disasters just waiting to happen. When? Who knows? But at that time, it may be decided that air travel has become too risky for public safety and is then shut down, isolating countries. This is not beyond possibility. The air traffic system may be scapegoated outright at some point. Are we already watching the air travel collapse happen in slow-mo? Very possibly. Right now, the beast is celebrating his fake COVID virus event 5 years ago. The 5th anniversary celebration is all over the internet. So are memorials to the so-called COVID dead who died from the tests and injections. This medical inquisition was and still is a major victory for the Jesuits. Remember that airplanes were needed to spread the fictitious virus worldwide in 2019. This is a key factor that few people understand. The Jesuits can't spread their fake diseases across the world quickly without airplanes. The question is, will they need airplanes to do this again? No one knows for sure. Without airplanes, the Jesuits could not have propagated the COVID-19 virus spreading rapidly worldwide lie in early 2020. Could not have done it. Now, we are being asked in media articles, what did we learn from COVID? For most people, the answer will be nothing. They learned nothing, and now they are marked and still marking. For God's people, we learned that the beast rules the earth and his Jesuit military have incredible power to deceive the nations. We learned that we are in tribulation in the very last days. We have learned many of the devil's devices, and we have learned that our time is short. We have learned that trusting in the Lord Jesus Christ for everything is the only way. The whole world fell for the fake COVID virus deception and got themselves tested and injected, including all the airline pilots and staff, if they wanted to keep their jobs. Now, online statistics state that there were 333,000 commercial airline pilots working worldwide in 2019. Interesting that I could not find the current pilot numbers for 2024-2025. Could not find them. Now they project this number, 333, good number, right? To increase to 426,000 by 2029. Now, Pelican Flight Training Online predicts 16,800 job openings annually for the next decade. Annually. Sounds encouraging, right? Not really. Not if they are tested and injected, and they all will be. Now, some pilots have already died of heart attacks in their chairs while flying. Some have died on the ground. Some have died on takeoff and landing, the most critical part of a flight. Now, this is likely to increase. It is impossible to find out how many of these incidents there have been. Many planes are already dropping out of the sky if you've been paying attention. Many planes, small planes, medium-sized planes. Now, I believe many pilots are now flying with many different COVID autoimmune conditions, but they won't report it or they will be fired. I can't prove it, but wouldn't be surprised that many pilots are now taking blood thinners and anticoagulants every day. Just imagine if two pilots on the same plane became incapacitated at the same time as was envisaged in an earlier report. Has it already happened and gone unreported in the media somehow? Personally, I believe it. And this is the main reason for the acute shortage of pilots worldwide. Now here's a short 57-second video clip with someone explaining that it's not so bad if both pilots were to become incapacitated. Please watch, and I'll see you afterwards.
What happens if one of the pilots becomes ill? We'll get the cabin crew in, we'll give them some oxygen if need be, assess their situation. They may recover fine, they may be able to continue with the flight, or they may become what we call incapacitated. So they take no further part in that flight. The cabin crew may give them some oxygen to see if we can bring them round, but if they really can't fly anymore, it's not a big deal. One of us can land the aircraft, and also the aircraft can land itself. In the extremely rare scenario that both of us are taken unwell, some airlines train their cabin crew how to use the radios. They can call for help, they can be talked down by trained people and set the aircraft up for an automatic landing where it will land, it will stop itself on the runway, and everything will be fine. Again, it's nothing to worry about. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And if you've overcome a fear of flying yourself, feel free to let us know in the comments.
Now, you can believe this if you want, but this is airline propaganda. It is only in very rare situations where the auto-land function has been used. Very rare. Many planes don't even have this facility. To say that it's no big deal if both pilots become incapacitated is incredibly irresponsible. Of course it's a big deal. If it wasn't, why are two highly trained, highly paid pilots, and sometimes three pilots, piloting every commercial aircraft? It takes many years of flying and a high level of training to pass the exams required by airlines. People must be highly competent to fly these complicated machines. To say that it's no big deal if both pilots are incapacitated is just lunatic. Well, maybe the video is a joke. I don't know. Now, just remember, there were 5,182 occurrences to aircraft and 1,274 associated fatalities around the world in 2023. How many pilot incidents were there? We aren't told, and they aren't going to tell us. Where are we now, 2 years later? The situation is definitely far worse, but this is not being talked about, not being reported. There is a conspiracy of silence by the ICAO and all the major airlines, all government authorities, and all media agencies, because they're all controlled by the beast. They're keeping a lid on this whole thing. Now, pilots today are not reporting any medical problems they are having. They know they will lose their jobs. At some point, many will become a died suddenly heart attack statistic. It's already happened. If this doesn't happen, then it means that the airlines have secretly exempted pilots to fly unvaccinated, while at the same time declaring publicly that their pilots must be vaccinated. Now, I don't know which story is true, because pilots have died of heart attacks flying their planes. It's already happened. So there is a diabolical deception going on here at many different levels. The beast system lies to us all the time. Now, here are the requirements for a first-class medical certificate for pilots in order to work and fly for a commercial airline from the ecfr.gov website. This is just the section dealing with heart health. Every part of the body is dealt with in different sections and is very stringent. Knowing what we know about the effects the vaccines have on the brain, nervous system, and heart, there is no possible way that a fully vaccinated pilot could be flying airplanes unless he or she is hiding their medical conditions or the airline is hiding the truth about pilots and COVID vaccine injury. No way. What about transgender pilots? Is this allowed by the ICAO? Transgenders are constantly injecting HGH, or human growth hormones. These hormones affect normal brain and heart functions. Imagine the mix of COVID and HGH chemicals in the body. I don't know the answer to this question, but under past DEI programs, I have no doubt that exemptions have been made for transgender pilots. Or maybe worse, transgendered applicants are not disclosing that they are trannies to medical authorities working for airlines. Is it possible? This would make flying even riskier. I don't have all the facts on these stories because you can't find them, people. It's very difficult to find the facts on what is allowed, what is not. But listen to this. This is the Code of Federal Regulations. Part 67, Medical Standards and Certification. 67.1, Applicability. It states, this part describes the medical standards and certification procedures for issuing medical certificates for airmen and for remaining eligible for a medical certificate. Without that, you can't fly, people. And if you do fly without it, they can throw the book at you. You can do a lot of time in jail. Now, 67.111 is titled Cardiovascular. Cardiovascular standards for a first-class airman medical certificate are ... Number A, no established medical history or clinical diagnosis of any of the following. You can't have any of the following in your medical history, or you won't get a first-class medical certificate. Number 1, myocardial infarction. Number 2, angina pectoris, both heart conditions. Number 3, coronary heart disease that has required treatment or, if untreated, that has been symptomatic or clinically significant. Number 4, cardiac valve replacement. Number 5, permanent cardiac pacemaker implantation. Or number 6, heart replacement. And B section states, a person applying for a first-class medical certification must demonstrate an absence of myocardial infarction and other clinically significant abnormality on electrocardiographic examination. And number 1 of B section states, at the first application after reaching the 35th birthday, and number 2, on an annual basis after reaching the 40th birthday, and number C, an electrocardiogram will satisfy a requirement of paragraph B of this section if it is dated no earlier than 60 days before the date of the application. It is to accompany and was performed and transmitted according to acceptable standards and techniques. Taken from the www.ecfr.gov website for requirements for a first-class medical certificate for pilot, and you need that to fly. Now, there are second-class certificates, but you would not be able to fly a commercial airline with one of those. Now, this is what we should take away from this presentation. Matthew 4:7 states this, Jesus said unto him, it is written again, you shall not tempt the Lord your God. In other words, do not put the Lord to the test. Deliberately getting on an airplane today after hearing the facts, the warning about where we are today is putting the Lord to the test. If anything should happen to your airplane, then whatever happens to you is your fault and your fault alone. And you just possibly will die. Flying stopped being safe 10 years ago or more, when ATC systems were already degrading. Now we did not know that. We did not know that. I did not know that. The last time I flew, as I said, was March 2020. I will not fly again, knowing this information, even though people are asking me to fly. I will not. Every possible negative factor is now converging, making air travel outright dangerous. You don't have to listen to me, but I do have to warn you. What you do is ultimately your own choice. Now, please keep an eye on air travel going forward because I believe that it is literally a sign of the times. We can learn about the beast's chronology by watching what happens to airplanes. There will be no warnings from the ICAO or governments or even the airlines, just as there wasn't much warning given in early 2020. Whatever they have planned will come with virtually no warning. You really don't want to be in another country or on an airplane when that happens. Like I said before, it could cost you your life. Now, if you look at the Hollywood movie record, do we get any warnings about airplanes, both fictional and based on true accounts? Yes, many of them. In many movies, airplanes actually become the main character, sort of. How about The Gray from 2011 or Flight from 2012 or Sully from 2016 or Plane from 2023, 2 years ago? There are scores of airplane movies dating all the way back to 1947. Scores of them. I did not take time to count them. It could be in the hundreds. I saw one website with 30 listed just like that. Now that's almost 80 years of airplane and airport disasters, airplane stories in movies. Now think of the very first mass bombing of a city by airplanes in history in April 1937. I'm talking here about the Basque city of Guernica in northern Spain, which was bombed by Hitler's Luftwaffe Air Force at Franco's request. This is the first instance of terror from the skies by airplanes unleashed on a civilian population. It had never happened before. It was a terrible portent of what was to come a few years later as England was bombed by Germany and then Germany was firebombed out of existence in retaliation years later. The Jesuits have used their world air forces with lethal force, terrorizing world populations. Airplanes as weapons became more and more sophisticated at delivering mass death and destruction in the Korean War, the Vietnamese War, and in many wars since 1945. Just more coincidences? Or has Satan been trying to tell us something about airplanes in cryptic language in both real life and in movie scenarios, as he always does? There is one very short, chilling scene from the movie Cell depicting what I'm talking about. At the beginning of the movie, after a cell phone call triggers a zombie outbreak, the main character who is at the airport sees airplanes on fire hurtling out of the sky toward the ground. The mysterious cell call has totally disabled the pilots also, sending the planes out of control. It's just a very brief 5-second scene, but it really makes you think. Is the movie message about cell phones? Or is it about airplanes? Maybe both. Looks like predictive programming 101 to me. Now I've put together a short 1-minute compilation video from Cell to emphasize this very real possibility going forward. Please watch, and I'll see you afterwards.
Passengers on flight 3598, your gate number has been...
Hi, Dad.
Hey, buddy.
Are you coming home?
Yeah, soon. Gosh.
It's terrorists, right? It's gotta be terrorists.
Don't use your cell phone.
Is this seemingly wild nightmare scenario possible? I would never say no. Can current technology trigger or manipulate people and machines from a distance? Yes, it can. Can airplane controls be overridden and the plane be made to crash beyond the pilot's ability to intervene? Or can a pilot be compelled to suicide unthinkingly? Yes, I believe so. Think about the implications of electromagnetic frequencies as a weapon. Hundreds and thousands of planes dropping out of the sky worldwide all at once? How about 10 or 20,000 of them? Don't say it can't happen. It's just another way, it would be just another way for the Black Pope, the Jesuit Superior General, or false prophet to call down fire from heaven. Can you imagine it? Remember 9/11, where the people were brainwashed into thinking that 2 planes actually were used as missiles in order to take down the Twin Towers in New York. People were being programmed to think of commercial passenger airplanes as weapons aimed at targets. That was 24 years ago. They have been showing us this possibility for quite a long time. Airplanes can be both hero and villain, agents of life or death, depending on which side of the action people happen to be standing at the time. Now remember that the world is now full of tested and injected COVID zombies. That was depicted in this movie. Everyone triggered and turning to zombies. Can you see the parallel of what's going on now? And after the people were triggered, then the planes fall out of the sky hitting buildings like missiles. It's the end of civilization in that movie, and it starts at an airport with airplanes and cell phone calls. Everything normal ceases in a few moments of time. Now, this movie came out in 2016, just 3 years before the fake virus pandemic. The rule of thumb is that when the Jesuits show us something far out in a Hollywood movie, then they've probably had the technology to do this for 10 years already and possibly longer. The truth is in the movies, and the lies are in the news generally. That is still an excellent rule of thumb method to assess whether something is true or something is not true. Use critical thinking with everything you see and hear, people. Now, this message about airplanes is only for him or her who have ears to hear and eyes to see. Airplanes and airports and air travel are not there for our convenience or pleasure. We were led to believe they were and are, but they're not. They are weapons systems built for a final, very, very dystopian scenario. Airplanes have always been Roman weapons, and I'm doing my best here to warn you about what I believe is coming for the future of airplanes. If you call yourself a Christian, then you would do well to not put the Lord to the test by getting on an airplane, no matter what reason, no matter what excuse. The time for safe flying stopped in February 2020 when the PCR tests were first rolled out, compromising the health of the world population. That's right, the health of the world population dropped notches in February 2020. And it's never going to recover. Never. Think about what that means for pilots and air crew working for airlines. Think about what it means for air traffic controllers controlling busy airports. The mind boggles at what could happen soon. Now, if you are listening to this message and are not a Christian, not saved, not born again of the water and the Holy Spirit, not tested or injected with the COVID vaccines, then I urge you to repent and turn back to God while you have time. It's not too late to exit from the dark TikTok beast world matrix reality we now are immersed in. Please consider carefully where you are at spiritually right now and do what God is telling you to do. Don't wait. If there is ongoing sin in your life, then get rid of it. Stop it. You know what you are doing wrong. You don't need me to tell you. You don't need other people to tell you. You know what you're doing wrong. Your heart, your conscience, the Spirit of God is telling you. So stop it. Stop sinning and get right with God. Get rid of all false teachings also, because time is very short. And false teachings, false beliefs will keep you out of the kingdom of God. Don't think they won't. They will. You need to be believing what is biblical and what is right. And if you think you know what is right, you better check it out to see whether it is right. Now, I've covered a lot of false doctrines in many of my videos. I've explained them, exposed them, and I've taught what is right. So if you want to compare what you believe to what is right from the scriptures, you can go back through my videos. There's more than probably 70 videos exposing false doctrine and teaching correct doctrine. You can go back, you can find them generally by their titles and go through them and make sure you have what you believe to be right and not false. Time is very short to get these things right. And once time is up, it's up forever. There's no second chances. Thank you for listening to this very long explanation about airplanes. I appreciate your time and your attention. I pray that God will continue to open your eyes as you search for the truth on all things regarding the will of God for your life. I'll put all pertinent links in the description box below. Please share this information with others as you're able. If you can find anybody who's unjabbed, unsaved, go to my website, darknessisfalling.com, and download my videos from there. Use the facilities that are there while they are available. darknessisfalling.com. You can find all my videos there. You can download them from there and record them and listen to them again. Many of my videos need to be listened to a second and third time. Not because I want you to listen to them a second and third time, but because they're packed with information, most of which you will forget after one hearing. I guarantee it. People have said it to me. So please set aside time and listen to a video once, and then maybe a couple weeks later listen to it again. Because I guarantee you will pick up an extra 30 or 40% of information in the second listening. You cannot remember everything that is said in a 3-hour video. You just can't. I can't. So please spend time with the videos, with the messages, because I take a lot of time, a lot of effort to put as much information, fact, into the videos so that you can benefit from that. As I've been saying in previous videos, this could be my last video. It's amazing that I'm still here. I say this all the time. But who knows tomorrow? So all truth online is going to go, folks. It's going to go. One morning we're going to wake up and what we usually watch or listen to or go to will be gone. It is going to happen at some point. So don't be shocked. So please use the material on my website and from my videos while you can, while it's available. And if you don't have a second channel that you're watching my videos on, please get a backup channel. There's 2 Rumble channels, 2 Darkness is Falling Rumble channels. There's a Darkness is Falling BitChute channel. There's a Darkness is Falling Brighteon channel. You can watch all my videos on my Facebook page, which is, I believe, William Boot 7 Facebook page. And you can also watch it on a few other sites like Instagram. So please get a backup channel if you don't already have one, because if one channel goes, and it's the only channel that you're linked to me with, you'll lose connection. Get a second channel just in case. I pray that God would keep and bless you all in the perilous days that lie directly in front of us. And I hope to see you in another video message. God bless you.